Welcome back, Alpha Hunters. So we have closed out another week. This week, July the 22nd, is now closed out. So let's talk about what's going on this week and really what's going on into the future, especially next week with so many major companies having earnings. So let's kick it off by recapping on what went on this week. So Monday, we just opened up pretty good on a very nice solid gap up, trade down. We went higher for 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And we saw some selling come in this week. So if we look at the intraday chart, Monday, we basically opened right at this downward trending line that was started back in April. And we saw some pretty good selling throughout the whole day. Monday, also midday, there was some news that came out about Apple basically slowing down hiring going into next year. And it really kind of shook up the market. So we saw some accelerated selling kind of come in around that midday time period. If we go look at Apple just real quick, this is kind of what I'm talking about. They just really got crushed right there when that report came out. But after Monday, basically the market got right back to going bullish. Tuesday was a very strong, solid day. Just all day was buying up, very strong. I think we were up like 2.5% on the day. So we definitely took out Monday's candle, which was extremely bullish action. So this is going back all the way from Thursday of last week into Friday, and then in through Tuesday was extremely bullish action, especially after taking out Monday's selling action. And then Wednesday, we got a little bit more bullish action in the morning, and then we just started to chop around for most of that day. And then it kind of continued a little bit into Thursday, with turning a little bit bullish towards the end of the day and get a little bit higher. And then Friday came in and we just kind of sold down. So what's some of the biggest news that kind of came out this week? Well, Apple and the report that came out on Monday, that was something we already talked about. Well, we got some earnings from Tesla and Snapchat. So we will look at those stocks here in just a second. But real quick, let's just get a game plan for what we think is going to kind of happen here over the next couple days to weeks on the market. So as we have seen some very solid strength coming out of the tech stocks, and we are still seeing some very strong bullishness. Don't let today's selling action get you all freaked out. We still made higher highs and higher lows, so we will continue probably just to grind to the upside. And I was thinking this yesterday as the market closed, we're just going to get into a choppy upward phase here until we can break above this support line, or this resistance line, really. It's really going to be a resistance line once we get there. But it is the bottom of the candle that we had on June the 9th, okay, before we got this really big gap down. So once we kind of probably break through that level, I would imagine we have a strong push higher, but that probably will come later in the next week. I would imagine next week's going to be a little bit choppy as we have a lot of major earnings we're going to talk about here in just a little bit, okay? So definitely expect the market to just kind of push higher as it has kind of changed the trends, right? So this was that bearish trend line I was telling you that we opened right on Monday and then just sold down. So we obviously broke through that. So that is now no longer an issue, but we do have another one that is going to be right here through this particular area that seems like we're kind of getting right into it. So I would imagine we probably just do slow down here for a couple days. And as long as we don't start to make new lows, I think we'll probably just chop around sideways with an slightly upward trajectory before we really start turning back to the bullish kind of trend that we've been in the past about a week and a half. Now, if we look at the Qs, basically the same thing. The Qs did have a little bit more selling pressure today, and a lot of that has to do with Snapchat, but definitely very strong action Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for the bullish side. But I do expect the tech stocks to probably chop around early next week before they probably start continuing to push higher as we get into maybe late Tuesday, Wednesday, later on into the week. So let's talk about Tesla and Snapchat here in just a second. Tesla had really good earnings. This is a very positive sign for some bullishness. We had a very nice longer term kind of flag pattern right in here, and it eventually popped to the bullish side after their earnings on Wednesday after the bell. So do expect this thing to probably push up quite a bit higher. If it gets up to the 900 point area, I would definitely be looking for the sell, which is about that 200 moving average on a daily, or possibly to where this previous support was around the 975 type area. So somewhere in that 900 area probably would be a good time to just be getting out of Tesla, because I think this thing will have much more downside, especially as we go into later this year or early into next year. With some of the reasons being, and they mentioned them on their earnings, that they are having compressing margins, but they are seeing their top line continue to grow. That's pretty good, but they are seeing that increase in competition in the market space around electric vehicles. So there's a lot more people trying to fight for resources to make electric vehicles. This is why they are having margin contractions. So let's talk about Snapchat. Well, it's been a few months since I've talked about Snapchat, and really the last time I talked about it was back in this day because it had a pretty bad effect on the market. But Snapchat is not a company I would consider high quality, so I don't really know why Wall Street pays so much attention to Snapchat. And there's actually a pretty funny headline right here on Finance Yahoo's homepage. Snap is going through a near-death experience. Well, they got that article headline completely wrong because they are going through a death experience. There is nothing about Snapchat I appeal to at all. They continue to lose user activity, and when you lose user activity, guess what comes? Your advertising dollars tend to go elsewhere. And really the biggest problem that Snapchat has is they're the runt of the litter, okay? They are the ones that are last to the dog bowl when it comes to social media and messaging platforms. Okay, so if you think about the top 5 ones, well, Facebook's going to be obviously one of the big ones. You got TikTok, you got YouTube with an absurd amount of video content, you have Twitch, and you have Discord. So there's no real room for Snapchat. And you notice I didn't even mention Twitter, and I think the 5 that I already mentioned have a lot more of the interaction that people are seeking, which is why they are using those platforms. So I would absolutely be staying away from anything Snapchat. I don't know if you could buy puts on them at this point because there could just be a massive bear market rally, short covering, as I would imagine like this already being down from 82 points down to under 10 points in roughly a little bit less than a year, about 10 months. It took about 10 months to lose, what is that, about 95% of its value? 90% of its value, 88% of its value, 88% of its value in 10 months. So I would absolutely just stay away from this. The absolute low was the week of December 17th, 2018, and it had a low of 5 points. Okay, so expect it to probably just continue to march down in that direction. I don't think they're going to go bankrupt. I think they'll just get so low that a company eventually acquires them. I absolutely don't care for Snapchat, and I don't know why they continue to have any kind of an impact on the marketplace. So that was most of the earnings this week. Let's talk about some of the earnings that we got going on this next week. And this next week is going to be mega dogs for earnings. Like we got Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta platforms of the former Facebook, Verizon, Exxon, Procter & Gamble, MasterCard, Pfizer, Chevron Corporation, Coca-Cola, AbbVie, Merck. You got McDonald's, also Qualcomm, T-Mobile, UPS, Intel Corporation is going to be next week, as well as Texas Instruments. There are so many companies with earnings next week. Boeing is also next week. Definitely going to have a plethora of stocks to trade. Next week is going to be your week if you do enjoy trading company earnings. I do not too much because I'm a less volatile type trader, but I will be paying attention to what is going on next week and the impact it's going to have on the market. But I do think we will get our direction probably by next Wednesday, as we will start to get some of those earnings come in on Tuesday and Wednesday. So I think the market will start to get a direction going if it doesn't happen before then. But I do think this is going to be a buying type opportunity. But another thing on the SPY here is if we do sell down Monday and Tuesday and get down to this high that we put in back on July 8th, which was around the 390 level, I would definitely be buying that because it would break just below the Friday low, but it would be that like little support top, resistance top right there. That it would freak a lot of people out. It looks like we're going to roll over as we're trying to make new lows on a daily picture, but we would have the 10 exponential moving average also right there in that zone. So definitely be looking out for that 390 type area, as I would imagine if we do sell down on Monday and Tuesday and get to those levels, we would probably just bounce. Now, one thing I have gone ahead and done for my chart is put on here this green line. And this green line down here is tied to a line that I've been keeping track of in a separate Excel spreadsheet. 'Cause there's no way for me to really track this in TradingView. So I had to figure out what this exponential trend line was, figure out the data points, and then put it into my TradingView charts. But if you have followed the channel before, you know, and you have seen this before, the green line is the price of the SP 500, and the straight line here is the exponential trend line of the S&P 500, okay? But those times that we do have a substantial move above this trend line, we do have a reversion to the mean, and we do come back to this long-term exponential trend line. So this is kind of what I have gone ahead and done and put into my chart. So that's something I am tracking. So whenever you see this green line on my screen, that's what that is now. And the reason why I do have this green box down here has a lot to do with, well, that's where I knew that exponential trend line was, but now it's a little bit clearer to see that whenever we do get out into the future, whenever we do get back down to these levels, that the exponential trend line will be somewhere in that zone. This is also where the pre-COVID high was, right? This was the pre-COVID high all the way back here. So we will probably get somewhere into that zone before we probably do get a bounce, but I think we'll probably have a pretty good rally here over the next several weeks, probably even 2 or 3 months, before we start making a slow bearish rollover that we go into later this year and probably just continues into early next year. So I had been wanting to add that to my charting, and I do have it out there now, so we can watch that as we kind of go into the future and see as we get closer to that. And if we do get out in the future and we do contact that line intra-week, you know, I'll definitely make sure to call that out on TradingView or put a picture out in the Discord. So that is really about all I got for this week. I definitely wouldn't be too bearish as we go into next week, because there's a lot of major companies that have earnings next week, and these are typically the most profitable companies. They don't have a problem making money. I think there's a pretty good overreaction today to Snapchat's earnings because, well, Snapchat's garbage. So definitely look for the bullish activity to come back in next week, because, you know, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, I mean, who's going to bet against those four? Those four are looking pretty good. So have a great weekend. Alrighty, take care, Alpha Hunters.